Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are talking about diet culture in TVs and movies. So if you haven't watched my previous video on what is diet culture and how to overcome it, I highly recommend watching that first because I talk a little bit about what diet culture really is and then some steps and some tips to help overcome that diet culture mentality. So give that a watch first, and if you've watched that, let's jump straight into this. I really think that it is so important to be able to recognize where diet culture is in society, and one of the places that unfortunately it is extremely apparent is in TV shows and movies. So before doing the research for this video, I actually didn't realize how widespread diet culture is in our popular TV and movie shows. Like, I literally just rewatched a TV show that I love called New Girl, and I realized that there is quite a lot of diet culture and fat shaming within that TV show. And basically all the TV shows and movies I'm going to go through, I actually really enjoy. And that's kind of the sad part, is that, you know, it's these really popular TV shows and movies that we all know and love that still, you know, show that diet culture and have that diet culture weaved into the storylines. And I do want to note that it's not necessarily the fault of these people, and I mentioned this in a previous video, but I really do think like it's a societal thing that we have to all change together, and it's not just one individual's fault. Like, you know, I could do a whole video on certain influencers who promote, you know, certain ways of eating which are just ingrained in diet culture and are completely not beneficial for their health and the health of others. But I don't really want to single out a singular person because I feel like that's just shaming them, and that's really not productive because a lot of the time it's not actually their fault. It's the information that they've been given. So they've been given misinformation, and some of it might work for them. Like I mentioned this in a previous video, like if something works for one person, that's all well and great, like that's amazing, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone. And what happens a lot of the time is that, you know, people have these like miracle working things, like maybe, like for example, like they cut out carbs and then they felt amazing and then they want to share that with the world and tell everyone not to eat carbs too. But you know, just because it worked for them and their gut, which is different, like their microbiome is different to literally every single person on this earth, so it doesn't mean that it's going to work for others, and it actually can be detrimental to others. So yeah, I just want to preface this all with saying that I'm not like against any of the people in these TV shows or movies, or the movies and TV shows in general, because I genuinely love a lot of these movies and TV shows, but it's just really interesting to note that diet culture has like snuck into these pop culture shows that we all know and love. So firstly, let's start off with a couple of TV shows. So as I mentioned before, New Girl, that is a TV show that I absolutely love. I've literally watched every single episode twice, and I found it really funny. But one of the ways that diet culture has kind of snuck into this is through the character of Schmidt. So when he has flashbacks to his college years, he's depicted as overweight and fat.
Who are you? Schmidt. You freak me out, man.
This is cool. We got a good vibe, bro.
You're a super weird guy. Hey, sit there while I throw things at you. Body slam! No, don't do this! No!
It also kind of shows this idea of like glowing up, and you know, he used to be fat and then now he's skinny. You know, he used to be like not popular, now he's more popular and successful, kind of like as a result of him losing weight. So showing that contrast between like being fat and being, you know, unattractive or like unpopular versus now being skinny and, you know, attractive and successful in life. So yeah, that's kind of how it shows diet culture, because it's showing that, you know, being fat is not so good and being skinny is like now he's getting all the success. So having that contrast is what promotes diet culture in my opinion, and you see pretty much the exact same thing in Friends. So this happens with the character of Monica. She often has flashbacks to when she was fat Monica versus now when she's extremely skinny and thin.
I've lost 4 pounds, maybe even 5 with all the dancing.
Somebody order a pizza?
Oh, that's me!
And it actually talks about, you know, there's one episode I think where it's like, what if she was still fat now, and that she was like still a virgin and like unpopular and uncool. And
Tonight was going to be my first time.
With Roger? Not just with Roger? Oh my God.
All right, relax, mister. I've had sex 4 times.
Yeah, it really ties like your weight and being overweight to being uncool and unpopular, which can be very detrimental to a lot of young women and young men growing up and being a bit overweight. Like, it ties that their weight is equivalent to their identity and their success in life, which really isn't true. Like, you can be any weight and be successful. Like, your mental capacity is not directly correlated to your weight. Like, yes, you know, if you're super overweight, maybe you'll be a little bit more depressed and not be able to function as optimally. But again, it's just like, it's really tying identity to weight and success to weight, which don't necessarily connect and can be very detrimental. And a lot of the times, like, these fatter characters are seen as the comic relief or are actually bullied as well. And again, that's just like further continuing this idea that, like, if you're overweight, you're going to be bullied, you're going to not be happy, you're not going to be successful, which obviously isn't true. So yeah, it's really sad because I really love both of those TV shows. Like, Friends, I think I've watched every episode at least 3 times, if not 4 times. Like, I love Friends. And I didn't even realize until I started doing the research from this, like, how negative of an impact that character might have had on myself and so many other people in the world. Like, thousands or millions of people have watched Friends and love Friends. And yeah, it's a bit sad, but I do think, like, our culture is starting to change, and I don't think that those characters would be as accepted now as they were like 10, 15 years ago when they were filmed. So I think things are definitely changing for the better, but yeah, it's just really interesting to see like those characters and how much of a negative impact those characters and the way of talking about those characters could have had in our society and in perpetuating diet culture. So now I'm going to jump into some more reality style TV shows that have had a big impact on me personally, and I do know that they've had a big impact on a number of people. So number 1 is The Biggest Loser. I used to be obsessed with this show when I was younger, and it was actually when I was a little bit overweight. So from the ages of about, let's say like 10 or 8, maybe between 8 and 14, I was a little bit overweight. I wasn't ever obese, but I was definitely in the overweight category of BMI, of weight for my height and age at the time. And I watched this show and I remember like thinking that everything that on there was like the way you should lose weight, and that was right, and like that these were coaches that were, you know, really professional. But if you watch back the old Biggest Loser seasons, they are cruel as hell. Like, oh my gosh, some of the things that the coaches would say to the people, and like the drastic way that they like equated losing weight to being successful is insane. Like, I remember when they had to stand on the scales, like the weight would go, you know, it would like flash between like a higher weight and a lower weight, and be all this suspense on the weight. Like, everything boiled down to the end of week weigh-in. Like, it was the most important part, and if they hadn't lost enough weight, like you could see that they were so upset and so depressed, and their coaches were upset with them, and it just enforced this idea that like the scales are everything, and the scales are not everything. Like, I actually weigh now 10 kilograms more than I did at my lightest weight, and I'm happier and healthier and more confident in my body than ever. Like, your weight does not equate your worth, and your weight isn't even like the best marker necessarily. Like, I have gained muscle mass, so yeah, like your weight on the scale is not everything. And that show definitely negatively impacted me for sure, because I went through a stage in my life where I was really restrictive and I would like constantly weigh myself, and I think that show really emphasized the importance of scale weight, which obviously, as we know now, like isn't the most important metric at all, and doesn't give you a clear picture of your actual body's composition in terms of your body fat to lean muscle mass. So yes, The Biggest Loser definitely had a negative impact on me, and I can imagine it had a negative impact on others. I'm not saying this show is like the worst show ever, because I know for some people it probably had a positive impact on them. Like, if you were morbidly obese and you see a lot of other people that, you know, look like you and then have lost all this weight, like it can be super inspiring to see that positive change in terms of someone becoming a lot healthier. But I think the way that this show did it a lot of the time wasn't very healthy. It's actually one other thing that stuck with me. I remember they did this episode where they took all of the contestants to Subway, And when they went to Subway, they asked the person working at Subway to scoop out the bread in the middle so that the roll was like just the shell of the roll and then you had all the salad inside. And I actually went and did that after that. Like I went to Subway and I asked the person to scoop out the middle of the bread so that I was having less carbs. And like now looking back at that, I feel so bad for little Saska because like that made her think that bread and carbs were bad for you. And for a while I did try to reduce my carbs or like completely cut out carbs at one stage because I thought carbs were the enemy, because that's what diet culture, TV, movies led us to believe. So yeah, it is crazy how big of an impact that show especially had on me. And I know it did have a big impact on a lot of other people out there. So that is one that definitely perpetuated a lot of diet culture. Another TV show that really impacted me was one called Super Size vs Super Skinny. So even in the name itself, it's pitting super skinny people against super overweight people. Like it's promoting this like competition almost between the overweight people and the underweight people. And what this show does, if you haven't watched it before, like please don't watch it, but basically they get someone that's overweight and they get someone that's severely underweight, so someone that's anorexic and someone that's obese, and they get them to swap diets for I think it's a whole week, and then see what they feel. But like they shouldn't have done that, because both the overweight person and the underweight person didn't have very healthy diets. They like were either consuming way too much or way too little. The quality of their food wasn't amazing. So just by giving them the opposite diet, like what is that really doing for them? Nothing. Like they should have just given them both healthy, balanced diets that would help them to get to the body weight that's more sustainable and healthy for them. Like I just don't understand why they would give them the opposite person's diet. Like that is not health promoting. And a lot of the foods they would show were like, they didn't really give very constructive advice either. They were just like, oh, eat less or eat more. And it's just, yeah, it really negatively impacted me. I think like when I was at my like skinniest, I was obsessed with this show. Like I kid you not, I don't think I've even told many people about this, but I would like watch it on YouTube late at night because like, I don't know, it was like fuel. It was like fuel for eating less, to see like how unhealthily like the overweight people ate, and like gave me ideas for like what the skinnier people ate. Like, oh, it's so bad. Like I'm so glad this show isn't like a thing now. At least I don't think it is. But yeah, it is very problematic, and I can't believe I even watched that show. Like, yeah, just not good news. Don't recommend looking it up. Like it is not great. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that one, because if you have watched it like myself, like that is diet culture and that is not great, like not healthy at all. Anyway, let's go on to some other shows. So America's Next Top Model or Australia's Next Top Model, whichever one you watched, or even UK. I'm sure there's a lot of other ones as well, but the main ones I watched was Australia's Next Top Model and the US Next Top Model. And I remember like just like looking at all these skinny people, like they talked about what they ate a lot, and yeah, it really just like perpetuated this idea that like you had to be skinny to be pretty, and like you had to be skinny to be successful. And for so long I wanted to be a model myself. Like I ended up getting signed with a modeling agency and doing a bit of modeling myself, and like after a while I realized it wasn't for me, because I literally had to restrict myself so much to maintain that super skinny physique. Like it's just not what like my body naturally wants to be. And yeah, it's just crazy how like conditioned we are, especially as young women, to like believe that you have to be skinny to be successful, or like being skinny and being like model-like in that day and age like was literally being skin and bone. Like I think now the modeling industry and the fashion industry has progressed a lot, and like they do have like plus size models and like models of different ethnicities and different shapes and sizes. And I think it's really great, you know, a lot of fashion brands now will like show you what the outfit looks like on a couple of different body shapes, which I find is really helpful. But back when I was a teenager growing up, like they did not have representation of different body shapes and different sizes. Like it was all stick thin models, and that's what shows like Australia's Next Top Model, America's Next Top Model like promoted, especially during like my teen years. So that definitely had a negative impact on my own body image and what I thought was healthy and what I thought was like pretty and successful. So yeah, those kind of model shows were quite negative for me. Finally, the last TV show I wanted to talk about is The Bachelor. So again, like, I think they have progressed a little bit more now, and I actually never got super into The Bachelor, but I do know, you know, The Bachelor used to be mostly stick thin women that would go on the show, or like very slim women. Even the idea of The Bachelor, like all these women are kind of like vying for one man. I know they do have Bachelorette now, so they have the opposite, but I think it did start with The Bachelor, so the man, and like all the women were trying to get the man. Like, it's just like not a good premise for a show. Like, it's not promoting like self-confidence and like body positivity. Like, it's cultivating this idea of competition, and especially competition against women. Like, oh, I'm so saddened when women compete and they don't support each other, and it's so apparent. Like, to this day, I've had negative experiences with women who have wanted to compete with me, or like didn't want to let me shine in my own way, like, or like I've had comments at high school where people would say that they didn't want to have a photo with me, like, because I looked a certain way. Like, I don't know, it's just like, it's really sad that we can't just support each other and love each other. And I think it does come with being confident in yourself. Like, if you are confident in yourself and you love yourself, I think you're more able to let other people shine. So I do think a lot of the time when people struggle with that, it's because they have their own internal struggles. Like, they aren't confident in themselves and they don't feel like they're able to take up space in the world, and so that's why they kind of like try to diminish others and tear other people down. Again, that could be a whole nother video, but yes, Next Top Model, Bachelor, like, I just don't think they have a great premise of the show in general, and they just, you know, further perpetuate that competition amongst women and that like tearing other women down to get ahead, which I really, really hate to see, because I just want everyone to be able to support each other. And I know, like, you might think that that's a bit of a naive way to look at the world, but I honestly do think there is space in this world for us all to shine and for us all to be successful. Like, just don't have to have that mentality that, you know, you have to tear someone else down so you can get on top. Like, that isn't what needs to happen. Like, if we support each other, we can help each other rise. Like, that is what I truly believe and I'm so passionate about. But anyway, as I said, like, I can just go on tangents all the time. So let's go into some movies. I just have a couple of movies written down here. One of them is Mean Girls. So it's so funny. We actually had to watch Mean Girls in my high school when I was in year 9. We had to watch Mean Girls and then we read Lord of the Flies, and we like took comparisons between them. It was very interesting actually looking back on it. But one of the things in Mean Girls that I remember in particular, which very much so perpetuated diet culture, was when Lindsay Lohan's character gives these like nutrition bars to Regina, and they're actually like weight gain bars, which causes her to lose weight. But what happens is when she gains weight, then she becomes like not as popular or like not as attractive. And
you're wearing sweatpants. It's Monday.
So?
So that's against the rules, and you can't sit with us.
Whatever. Those rules aren't real.
They were real that day I wore a vest.
Because that vest was disgusting.
You can't sit with us!
These sweatpants are all that fits me right now. Fine. You can walk home, bitches.
That's where you're going, fat ass.
so what that did is it correlates like being overweight to being unhappy. And again, like, that's kind of what was shown in the TV shows that I mentioned earlier, like with Fat Monica and Fat Schmidt. It's that idea of like being overweight equals unhappiness and like equals not being cool, like, which is not true at all. Like, you can be any weight and be amazing. So yeah, that one is not so great. And there's another thing that's apparent in quite a lot of movies and TV shows, which is this idea of like a glow up or like a transformation. So for example, like in Mean Girls itself, like when Lindsay Lohan's character goes from like kind of like, I don't know, she didn't like have the best sense of style and stuff to then like having a makeover and then being all cool and popular. Like that idea of changing your appearance to then be more popular and liked is very apparent in a lot of TV shows and movies like The Princess Diaries. Like there's quite a few movies out there where like the main character will go from like not being as like fashion savvy then having a transformation, and then like that by that process what you're doing is attributing your appearance to like success and to fame and to popularity and to like being liked, which again can have a very negative impact on a lot of young women out there that then equate appearance to success or appearance to happiness or appearance to popularity, which isn't the case. Like, yes, you know, in some senses, if you are more attractive, like you might get some more opportunities in life, but you can be incredible and be amazing and take up so much space in this world no matter what weight you are and no matter how you look. Like, your brain is the most important part, and like, you know, it's so sad to see because it tears down our confidence. And then if you have really low self-confidence, then you're less likely to do those amazing things because you don't think you're worthy. And we are all worthy. So yes. One last movie that I want to mention is The Devil Wears Prada. Again, literally everything I've mentioned pretty much, I like these movies and TV shows. Like, I love The Devil Wears Prada, but like there is so much diet culture in this movie, like so much. You know, one example is when, you know, the main character Andy, she has her transformation. I think she loses a bit of weight and that whole like transformation thing, which I just went into earlier. But then also like the Emily character, I remember her like being on the steps of, I don't know where she was, but she was going to a party and she said that,
"You look so thin." Do I? Yeah. Oh, it's for Paris. Well, I'm on this new diet. It's very effective. Well, I don't eat anything. And when I feel like I'm about to faint, I eat a cube of cheese.
like, that is so bad, and that promotes like starvation in young women and like restriction and not eating meals, skipping meals. Like, yeah, it's really sad to see, and it's not like they called her out on that. Like, they just kind of let it slide, and yeah, it's just really sad to see in a lot of movies, popular movies and TV shows, that they have this diet culture embedded into the storyline. And I think the thing that we have to recognize, like if you are making these movies or making these TV shows, that you might think it's just a laugh or just funny, but to some impressionable young people out there, they internalize that, and then that comes out in their life. Like, they see that person starving themselves, and so then they try it. Or even if they don't try it, like, they might think that's normal. And then, you know, when their friends talk about themselves restricting, like, they just think it's normal, and they don't call it out either because they think it's normal. So yeah, a lot of these TV shows and movies can have a really significant impact on us, even if it's subconscious. Like, it's normalizing restriction. It's normalizing that being fat equals something negative. Like, it's normalizing these things which shouldn't be normal. And yeah, I think people that are in positions of power, that are creating these movies and TV shows, should just, you know, think a little bit harder about the impact that it can have on impressionable young people in this world, or not even young people, like people of any age that just don't have education in health and fitness. Because like, I've been there. Like, you are impacted by the things that you see in your day, like the things you see on your phone. Like, I could do a whole video about like diet culture on TikTok or diet culture on YouTube. Like, it's everywhere you look, and if you aren't conscious of it and if you can't recognize it, then you can't like get away from it, really. So it is very important to be conscious and recognize when these things come up in your life, and to, yeah, like, call it out, don't follow it, opt out, all the steps that I mentioned in my previous video. Like, once you recognize diet culture, it'll be a lot easier to start recognizing it more and more, and then to opt out and to not engage in that behavior and to not engage in those values and sets of beliefs anymore. But yeah, I hope this video has helped you in some way to, you know, be a bit more conscious of the information that you were gathering, and to realize that even if you don't in your conscious mind, like, think about the impact, like, it is having a subliminal subconscious impact on your ways of thinking. So try to opt out of these kind of things, and try to, if you do still want to watch them, like, I know like Friends is amazing, and like, I don't think I'm going to stop watching Friends because of like the Fat Monica character, but just being conscious that like the way that they portray Fat Monica, like, that is not how people who are overweight should be portrayed, and just like knowing consciously that that isn't right, and then like calling it out. Like, if you're watching it with your friend, be like, that is a negative portrayal of an overweight person, and like, I don't agree with the way that they've portrayed her in this TV show. Like, saying something like that out loud, or even just in your brain, like, it helps you to rewire your brain and I'm actually reading this amazing book at the moment, which I will link in the description box below. It's called Designing the Mind with the Principles of Psychitecture, and it's all about reprogramming your brain, because we do have these like neural pathways that connect certain things to other things that might be detrimental to our health. And we have to recognize them first and then reprogram them in our brain. Oh, I love that whole topic of like metacognition and thinking about your thoughts and changing your thoughts and reprogramming. Again, could do a whole video on that. But anyway, I'll just leave you with this thought that you are the designer of your reality. So if you find something that isn't serving you, that isn't helping you, you have the option to reprogram your brain. You have the option to opt out or to unfollow or to distance yourself from that person or from that TV show or from that movie or whatever it is. You have the power, but first you need to be conscious and be aware of what you are seeing and what information you are ingesting. So I hope this video has helped you to maybe even just become a little bit more conscious of the information that you are constantly, you know, feeding to yourself through what you're watching on social media as well. Like, yeah, just be conscious of the information you are consuming. And then if you realize that something is negatively impacting you, try to change your situation so that you are no longer subject to that negativity, or that you are able to call it out. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it there because again, I could just talk for ages, but yeah. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos like this, let me know in the comments down below. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new. Thank you so much. Love you all. Bye.